Doesn't everything begin with a conversation? A conversation of the eyes, of words, and the body? When light spoke to the sand, wasn't that when evolution began? From a beautiful relationship to a forgettable friendship, didn't it all begin with a conversation? Sometimes I feel if we put the whole world on mute, there's so much we can notice. Most of the time, we can never tell the implications of one single conversation. It could be that one conversation that gets you married in 5 years or gives you your first heartache. You can never tell which conversation becomes a story and which conversation just flows past you like a breeze of words.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Closet Writer Chronicles. I'm your host Sangeeta, aka the Moody Marshmallow. You just heard our guest for today, Saraswathi Menon. Saraswathi is a director, screenwriter, lyricist, actress, dancer, and much more. She has worked on projects like Padmaavat, Mudalni Muduvamni, and Kadal Girkan in different capacities. She currently works as a creative producer with The Viral Fever. Tune in to hear her story. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Closet Writer Chronicles. This week I have with me Saraswathi Menon, also better known as Saras. Welcome to the show, Saras. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
No, for sure. As I mentioned in your introduction, you're doing a lot of things. And I think, the first thing I really want to ask you is, what is your earliest memory of being creative?
Wow, that's really interesting, actually. My earliest memory of being creative is kind of torn between either the first poem I wrote or the first dance I did. So I learned Bharatanatyam, or I began to learn Bharatanatyam when I was like between the ages of like 5 to 6. And I also wrote my first poem when I was about 7. So I would say ages 5 to 7 was when I really began sort of seeing the world through a different lens. And I had a lot of art in my life at that point of time because I hadn't started school yet, and my parents wanted me to like do things that didn't involve their me annoying them. So I think that was my earliest memory of being creative. I remember I was kind of cycling around somewhere like close to my house, and I remember seeing leaves fall, and I thought that was really beautiful. So I wrote this really bad poem about it, but I think that was my first poem, and I've not stopped writing since then. So I guess it was an okay venture.
No, that's amazing. It actually reminded me of The Last Leaf by O. Henry when you were talking about leaves.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is like a baby version of that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. It is a lovely there's a lot of poems about nature. If you think of it, like almost like a classic. I think autumn has always autumn, or whether it's like the season of cherry blossoms, has always been like a source of inspiration for so many writers, I think.
Yeah, no, I think, nature, and I think just observing, right? Like things around you and, whether it's nature or anything really. So I think it's amazing that you were able to kind of take inspiration at sort of such a young age and sort of, write something and start creating, which is really cool. But yeah,
Oh,
having said that, you
thank
spoke.
you.
But having said
Mhm.
that, speaking about your parents, you do come from a creative family. To give context to the audience, Saras's father is Mr. Rajiv Menon, who is a celebrated director and cinematographer. And I have to admit that I really loved his film Minsaru, which I didn't know he had taken till like much after I met you, by the way. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's a great film. And also, of course, your grandmother, your paternal grandmother, was an amazing singer, Kalyani Menon.
Mhm.
So it's kind of in the genes. And of course, your mother is in the advertising space. So I think it's safe to say creativity is very much in the genes of the family. How has growing up in that sort of environment influenced and shaped you as a sort of creative person?
Yeah, honestly, it's been equal parts exciting and terrifying. I think also my mother also has been involved in different capacities throughout, my childhood. I've seen her also, go to shoots, go to film shoots also. She was like an assistant director on, they'll say Kannathil, Muthamittal, and even a casting director and an actor for Yavana Urvan. And as has my dad done different roles as a cinematographer, director. He's even acted and he's acting more these days. So they've all done different things in the industry, and I've always seen them work all through my life, and I think like how you would any of us, if your parents are in a certain industry, you kind of get like a very 360-degree perspective of it, the good things, the bad things, the exciting things, and also, yeah, like the terrifying things for me personally are they have already set a precedent. Uh, I mean, for two generations in different capacities. And that scares me because I have to live up to that precedent and also create my own path, my voice, my journey. I was really lucky to see them uh, sort of practice their craft every day. And also, that helped me kind of form a kind of holistic perspective, whether it was with regard to film texts or like books about art, or whether it was musical influences, seeing them imbibe any sort of classical form of art or music. I was privileged enough to be around that sort of environment, and I think that has shaped a lot of my artistic influences till day and continues to be shaped by their influences and their learnings. And they always share like their shortcomings also in terms of works that they've done or areas that they could have improved on. So that is always a learning when you kind of are vulnerable about those aspects in your career. So I
Hmm.
think that's a side that not everyone sees with regard to their career paths. So they're like kind enough to share those experiences and learnings with me and whoever's close to them. Even like they also teach, both of them teach in the film institute that he started. It's called Mindscreen Film Institute. So they, I think, had another avenue open up for them when it came to like again practicing and honing their craft when they teach students and like they do like practicals. And I also taught for a bit actually, coincidentally, at NIFT. So
Okay.
unintentionally, yeah, I also followed their path. I taught poetry as an extra module for NIFT students. I think across the years they could take my class, and I did it for 2 semesters, and I learned a lot about like myself and uh, poetry whilst teaching them, because you have to like really go back to the basics and you learn all over again, I think, when you teach. So I think that helps you as well. So yeah, they've always been my teachers as well. So that's, I mean, they're like teachers and parents, if that makes sense. They unintentionally have always been intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not sure to be honest, but all of the conversations in my house are to do with art, film, music. My sister's also joined the industry now, so she's always talking about, the learnings she has, the things she's seen. So it's been an environment like that. Sometimes it can get a bit exasperating for all of us. It feels like we only talk about this, so we have to try and remember that there's a world outside of this, and that's important too, and we shouldn't get too absorbed in this. I am, yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky to be a part of this environment, but it is also quite scary because there are certain expectations people have of you and a
Hmm.
certain aesthetic, and I sometimes feel like I shouldn't let them down or anyone else down. So that has always been a fear of mine.
Yeah, which is a very fair, I think, fear to have as well. Do you
Yeah.
consciously then sometimes find yourself like making sure that you're not doing things, say, in the exact manner, say, one of your parents would do something, or say your grandmother may have done something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you're so
Um,
conscious of having your own individuality and sort of maintaining your voice.
yeah, I think it is. I don't try to like, do something sensational as a result. I
Mm,
know that there are certain strengths in terms of the way I perceive the world and my assets in terms of the art. So I think that I will always remain true to my voice, but
mm,
I think everyone's voice is constantly evolving, and I haven't, to be very honest, created a sort of identity in the industry yet, in my opinion. It's kind of evolving. So I try not to do anything that would upset my sort of perception of what I think a good artist should, like, in terms of the qualities that a good artist should have. I try not to like change that just to fit in or fit in with the trends, etc.
mm,
But I don't do anything that would deliberately sort of just create another perception of me. I know that whatever I do will always be associated to the things they've done, and I can't fully break away from that. But I think most of my aesthetics and sensibilities do align with what they've already done. I'll probably find my own way of saying it so that I don't get compared to them. But I think invariably your aesthetic or your themes, a lot of the themes that I like, I think my parents also like, or the kind of values or ideals or the causes we sort of believe in, all of them are quite similar, and for better or for worse. And I think I will have to drop on them as strengths and find a new way of telling them rather than completely to break away, because that's quite challenging. That would mean that I have to be untrue to myself, so that would
mm.
not happen.
No, that's very wonderfully put. But
Thank you.
but having said that, you grew up in this sort of creative environment, like you said, and you're very heavily involved and interested, of course, in the arts. But then, how did you kind of decide that you wanted to sort of pursue a career in this space? Because I mean, yes, it is very easy while growing up in that sort of surround sound to be like, oh, this is
Hmm.
what I want to do. But then I guess, at what point do you decide that, is this really, I guess, my decision, or is it a decision because my environment is like this, so I have to do this? So I guess, how did you kind of figure that you wanted to kind of pursue a career for yourself here in this space?
That's really interesting. I actually was never sure what I would do in the arts. Like, I always knew that I would do something in the arts, and I also genuinely found academics quite challenging. Like, I managed in school, and I think I did pretty okay in my board exams, but I found it a bit challenging to sort of, by heart things, or it was not really my strength. I kind of always veered towards performing or writing, and I felt truly at home when I did those things. I was a bit unsure, and I still am kind of always fascinated by different aspects of the arts, but I knew it would be something in the arts because I could not possibly imagine myself doing anything else. I've always liked the arts, and I think, yeah, there is that sort of additional support when your parents are artists. They like that you want to be an artist, and they support that journey, and they have their take on what your strengths are with regard to that journey, for sure. But I never thought that, oh, because they're there, I should be in that industry, or it would be great if we all did this together. If anything, it was something that would be a you know a kind of obstacle to overcome. Not really
Yeah.
obstacle, but like, it's, if anything, for me and for my peers also, whose parents work in the industry, whether it's medicine or whether it's business or media, there is a certain disadvantage sometimes when you're comparing in the industry, that you will be compared to, or you will be kind of, who knows, like even like compared to them, or I kind of decided that I always have liked the arts and I will pursue it no matter what, because I honestly, I don't think I can do anything else. So, and I think I realized that when I went outside of my environment, like outside of Chennai, when
Hmm.
I was studying Srishti, when I was studying the UK, that whether it was certain works of like visual art I created in Srishti, or certain poems or short stories, that other people liked it and they were receptive to it. And it wasn't just my circle, my friends and my family saying it was good. And it was people who were like my classmates or people I didn't really know well. And they didn't owe it to me to say that something about my work touched them. That's when I realized, okay, maybe there's something in here that is worthy of pursuing and finessing in terms of what I have to say and the way I have, or the tools I have to say those things.
Hmm. No,
So that's when
that's
I realized, yeah, maybe there's something here worth pursuing also, like the objective perspective that you get outside when you go outside of your comfort zone, and then you're
yeah.
like, maybe I should do this thing and maybe I'm okay at it. Yeah.
No, that's is very true. I think
Mm.
validation is always great, right? Especially when it comes from
Hmm.
outside of like your circle, that, oh, then
Yeah,
maybe I'm doing something right for sure.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, how did it really start for you in terms of, okay, when you decided that, hey, this
Hmm.
is a space I really want to, you know, give a shot at and kind of try and see, you know,
Hmm.
what I can do and where I can go with it. How did it really start for you? What was, I guess, the first thing you worked on? And, what has the journey been like for you till now from that first project you got to sort of get your hands on and then kind of coming this far?
So I think my first ever project of sorts would be like a poetry anthology that I got to be a part of. I was lucky enough to be a part of the Prakriti poetry anthology. I was about 15 then. And then after that, I was a part of the poetry anthology when I was in university. But those were far more individual, straightforward kind of projects. Whereas when I think I finished school and college, I also was interning while I was studying, but my first full-time project that I had a chance to work on would have been Padmaavat. I was working as
Mm,
an assistant director. And after that, I worked as a director myself, and then I also worked as a creative producer. And I'm currently working as a creative producer for the Viral Fever. So it's been a journey that I didn't really anticipate. I didn't think I would be a creative producer at this point in time in my life, but it sort of just happened that I realized that I love reading scripts and putting together people in a room and seeing what could happen, and seeing a project through from like start to finish. And so at this point in time, from so yeah, I mean, to give you some context, yeah, the assistant director basically works in the direction team, and you kind of ensure that the director's visions met on a day-to-day basis. It's a lot of like
mm,
logistics, creativity, organizing. It can be quite stressful. And
mm,
from that position to this position, the roles have kind of changed, but overall, like, when you're on a film set, like all of the learning is quite interdisciplinary. In my opinion, it's always useful to know what another department is doing
mm,
or what challenges they're facing, so that when you have to face that challenge, you can troubleshoot at that point of time. So I think it has been a lot of ups and downs, because I think it took me some time to gain confidence in what I have to say, and that I might be able to do it regardless of my gender or my age. Because
mm,
sometimes some people make you very aware of those things, and if they try to make you feel like there's a certain trajectory or a certain time period for you to reach where you can reach if the time is right or the opportunities align. So that has been a bit of a hurdle to overcome, whether
Hmm.
it's my perception of myself or other people's perception of me. It's sometimes you put certain limitations on yourself as well. So
Yeah.
I try to be aware of those thoughts and also perception, like also, yeah, you can be aware of what other people have to say about you, but it's best not to let that affect how you function, because you might be kind of making things worse for yourself than better. So I constantly just try to focus on my path and my learnings, and a lot of my peers just sort of give their time, energy, and find support within the industry. And I think that's the best way forward, because there is support and there are great people available if you kind of keep your eyes and ears open for those
Hmm.
sort of people. But if you don't, then it's very easy to get like disillusioned
Hmm.
by everything. Yeah.
Okay, just to kind of take from what you were saying and slightly ignorant question, well, not ignorant question, I'd like to educate myself on this. What does a
Yeah.
creative producer do?
So I think the easiest way to describe the role of a creative producer would be that of a project manager. So you kind of see the project through from start to finish. So right from when the idea is being developed, you sit down with the writers, or even if it's at an even more nascent stage, you scout for writers, and then there's an idea that is being developed together. Then once that has been developed, the team has to be put together with the help of the creative producer and the company in question, obviously. And after that, from that point on till the project is delivered, creatively overseeing everything and ensuring the quality is up to a certain standard, also giving in your input, feedback on scripts, feedback on the edits, feedback with regard to the marketing strategy. And in different companies, there are different roles and responsibilities. As far as I've worked, yeah, my roles and responsibilities have been to ensure a certain quality standard. And there's a lot of creativity involved, because you can give your ideas with regard to casting or with regard to day-to-day operations, how you think you could also save costs, how you think you can sort of spot talent. A creative producer is always looking out for talent and teams, and trying to also understand the commerce of making sure a project is well within the budget. So
Hmm.
that's the producing aspect of it, to kind of also negotiate remuneration and project costs and budgets, and ensuring that that is not exceeding. So it's
Hmm.
also the business aspect of it. You need to be aware of the legal aspects of it. So a lot of the times, I also have to ensure that we don't have anything that could cause legal issues within the shows we work on or the short films we work on. There shouldn't be anything that could lead to any sort of FIRs or
Yeah.
cases, or any sort of issues with regard to contracts. All of those things, you need to understand the business side of it and the legal side of it, and the obviously artistic side of the process. So it's yeah, I would say like a holistic approach to the process. And a lot of the times we don't know, like many creative producers or people who are creative producers, but a lot of directors are like executive producers or creative producers on other projects,
Hmm.
like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. They've been like producers on so many other projects, and we probably don't even know of that. But even actors do that for their own projects or other projects. And now it's like growing as a
Hmm.
term, but it's still, I think, like you were saying, like for people outside of the industry, it's still a relatively new term for sure.
Yeah. No, that was very informational because I had no idea, which is why I asked, because I was very curious as to, oh, what does a creative producer do?
It's like no worries at all. Like there's a lot of terms I'm sure in every industry that make sense to people in the industry, but probably not to everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. So that was really helpful. And it's kind of cool that you're sort of in this role that kind of has that sort of overall kind of, aspect in terms of you get to do artistic things, but you also kind of get this business side to it. So, like you said, it is very interdisciplinary in a way, which
Hmm.
is honestly very fascinating. But yeah, having said that, what kind of, stories and content do you enjoy consuming? I know you're in the business of sort of creating it,
Hmm.
but what do you enjoy, sort of consuming for yourself? Which of them have sort of impacted you or stayed with you? Can be films, music, books, absolutely anything.
Oh, wow. There's so many, honestly. I don't even know where to begin. But I would say that a film I saw recently that really impacted me was Promising Young Woman.
Mm.
It won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. It was made in 2020, and Carey Mulligan acts in this film, and it was written and co-produced and directed by Emerald Fennell, and she's also an actor, and she was actually pregnant when she made this film. But it's really cool and inspiring. Also, I think for me personally, because it's made by such strong women, and it's I don't know. Have you seen it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard a lot about this movie.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because it's got a lot of comedy in it, but it's also a thriller.
Okay.
And the way they've kind of designed the aesthetic of the film and the soundtrack and the performances are absolutely stunning and brilliant. And it's also very inherently feminist, which is a
Mm.
very challenging path to take in this current day and age, whether it's anything political or any sort of statement you're trying to make, there's always a lot of pushback. So to make those statements and not ruffle any feathers and still be entertaining was really path breaking, and it really made me think and ponder over what I'd like to say in the future, hopefully.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a brilliant film. Aside from that, there's a lot of musical influences with regard to Coke Studio Pakistan. I've
Oh,
always
love
liked
that
Coke
show.
Studio. Yeah. Coke Studio India is also great, but I think Coke Studio Pakistan has had a lot more seasons, and
Yeah.
um, the latest season was absolutely brilliant in terms of the genres they explored and the topics they chose with regard to music that were not just solely based on love. Like of late, I've been trying to listen to songs that are not about love, and surprisingly, they're quite hard to find because most of yeah, because all the songs we listen to, the theme is love, and it's kind of frustrating because there's so much more to life than heteronormative love. Like it's a certain kind of love also. It's not just like a platonic love or the love between friends. It's or the love between siblings. It's always just a certain notion of love, and sometimes it can get a bit redundant. So I'm just trying to seek like different sort of experiences, even like classical music. I, I like listening to like Hindustani music and Carnatic
Mm.
music when I do get the chance. I'm obviously not as well versed as the rest of my family, but I try to uh now, I mean, I didn't as a child, but now I'm trying to understand because I know a lot of the music we listen to in the current day and age, whether it's Bollywood or Collywood, a lot of the melodies are largely inspired by classical Indian music. So it's important to be aware of those.
That's amazing. But has there been anything that, say, while growing up, that's really impacted you in terms of, again, say, stories like, again, books or films or anything?
Hmm. There was this film called uh, Whale Rider
Okay.
that's made based on a book, and it's made in New Zealand, and it's about the Maori tribe, and it's a
Oh,
coming of age film, and it's really interesting. I mean, if you haven't already seen it, you should see it. I think it. goes deep into the culture of a place that we've barely seen, we've only heard about, but
Hmm.
it's so beautifully shot, and it's about a girl kind of vying for the position that only young boys can aspire for. So it was beautiful to sort of see how she has to transform, and how she's trying really hard to appease her grandfather, and ultimately also it has a lot of mythical elements with regards to the sea, and them preserving tradition and culture in a constantly changing 21st century
Yeah.
environment. I love like the coming of age genre. I think I saw that film and I always wanted to do something in that space, and also
Hmm.
something deeply rooted in our culture and tradition as well. Because I feel like, because I really truly believe that there's so much, even I'm sure you know, with regard to Kerala, that's Kathakali or Tayyam or
Yeah.
Kudiyattam. There's so many forms that have uh, years of research, meaning, and mythology within that form. And I truly believe that the world has to see it, and they haven't really had a chance to see it on that sort of an international scale. So I do hope that someone makes it, or I'm a part of something like that someday.
Well, I hope you do. And yeah, honestly, I think I can see you being a part of a project like that,
I hope so.
definitely.
I really do. I try to always watch whatever I can whenever, it's Margari season in Chennai, or whether I go to Kerala. I try to watch as much as I can. Even I obviously in other parts of India as well, but I'm
Hmm.
familiar with the forms in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, but there are so many forms purely because India is such a diverse place that there's so much of folklore and music that if we really wanted to seek, we could probably. But and I'm also worried that they're all slowly dying out with lack of an
Yeah.
audience. But hopefully now with the advent of the internet, there will be a comeback. YouTube is really given a new life. Like I listen to a lot of music from Rajasthan as well now. I got introduced to it because of Folk to India. Actually, there's a song called Chowdhury.
Yeah, I've heard
That
it.
yeah,
Mame
and that's
Khan.
when he's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a proper rock star. With regard to the his music, and
Hmm.
how he's managed to make it so contemporary. I think it's also keys in all these forms is to make it contemporary and relevant to audiences that aren't used to that sort of music.
That is very true. I think Rohail Hyatt managed that very well with Coke Studio Pakistan, if I
Thing
must
is,
say.
yes. Also, I love reading poetry. I like reading novels as well, and I try to read at least one book a month. That's very less, but I want to read more. But at this moment in time, I try to read at least one book a month. But I do like reading poetry or poetry collections,
Hmm.
because I feel like they are easy when you want to travel. They're like short and succinct. So I recently had read an Urdu poetry collection, and that was beautiful as well. So that was then also like Tagore.
Yeah.
Tagore's has written a lot of like poems and shorter verses in this book that I got recently. It's called The Lover's Gift. So that was a new side to his work that I had always heard of, but I hadn't properly read. So that was interesting.
Yeah. No, Tagore is a classic. I think a while ago I actually read this collection of poems by Sukumar Ray, who's Satyajit Ray's father, which
Hmm.
I thought was again really fascinating. I think there's a lot of like good writing, especially in Indian literature itself, which I think a lot of people are still not very aware of or
Yeah,
exposed to, honestly. Um,
even poetry from India, because I think they're all translations,
yes, yeah.
and people are a bit averse to translations, but no one is really um, making an effort to read the original text unless they're that familiar with the original text. But
Mm,
I think genuinely the translations still connect to, or they try their best to kind of reimagine whatever the Indian world in English, but you can still see a lot of India through the translated versions, in my opinion. Little.
definitely. you're doing a bunch of things, like you're writing, you're directing, you're singing, you're modeling, you're acting, you dance, you're making reels now. So you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
How are you balancing everything? And do you ever experience creative burnout?
Oh, thank you. I honestly, it just started off as one thing and then it kind of snowballed into something else and something else. But I didn't want to ever look back at my life and think, oh, I could have done that, or I felt like I was good at it, but no one really encouraged me. I didn't want to have all those weird thoughts later on, which a lot of artists tend to have, that, oh, should I have done this instead of that? Should I have pursued this path? Because I feel like genuinely art is very interdisciplinary, and a lot of people don't look at it that way. They
Hmm.
always feel that oh, if I've decided to be a writer, I should only write scripts and that's all I should do for the rest of my life. Even though I do write poetry, I shouldn't do that. I should just do this one thing and be great at this one thing. And I do agree with that philosophy. That may work for some people, but for me personally, I found that certain projects have a longer turnaround time, and they might take some time to see the light of day, but or they might not even happen. They might just get cancelled, and that can be really disheartening. So when those things started to happen with my long form projects, I started to turn towards music and writing, like writing songs and
Hmm.
performing, because I felt like they had a shorter turnaround time and they would at least be something that they would at least come out. And even if it didn't have like a great reception, it was at least something that I got to work on, that I enjoyed doing, and that was like a break from my day job in a sense. And I started reaching out to people. I've been reaching out to people for a while, because that's how I started. I mean, I began this whole process because I write poetry and I've always wanted to write songs. I didn't think that that market would open in India, but it has
Hmm.
opened up really, in terms of independent music and in terms of film music also. There's a lot more English and different languages coming into mainstream music and mainstream film music as well. So I saw this opportunity, and I've been trying to put my work out, and I've also been trying to meet music producers who want to collaborate. And I found it to be extremely enriching in the sense that I finally, it's also more individual and it's a smaller team of people
Hmm.
working together on a song, as opposed to, a lot of people working on a film or a show, and a lot more opinions and a lot more time is involved. And this is more instantaneous and spontaneous, and it kind of, uh, I kind of got to practice my writing, and I kind of got to see how the reception of a certain song is. And in a film that I wasn't even involved in, it just allows me to be a part of more projects. And I don't have to be committed to it for that long as well. Like, I can still do the projects that I'm already a part of, and also get to work with other people and see how they work and see what's working and what's not working in the market. So I also act. So when I acted in a couple of projects, I got to see films that I never thought I would like be a part of. Like, I didn't think I would be a part of a film like Mudalni Mudivamni. It was
Hmm.
very different. It was like an ensemble film about people in school, and then they meet at a reunion, and it's it has so many characters, and I would have never got a chance to be a part of a film like that if I had to write it myself or direct it myself. I mean, maybe I would have, but at this point of time, having such a big cast is not something that I would really foresee myself doing. And so, yeah, when you see that many actors in a room and how the director is dealing with that, it's always a learning. Ultimately, I do want to direct. So, all of these experiences have been learnings, and I do experience creative burnout though, because I also try to keep a certain presence on social media, because I know that's important to stay
Hmm.
connected with your creative community and other people who follow your work. It's important to, make content it is challenging, but I know sometimes it can be it can miss the mark sometimes, because you can just completely go wrong with regard to content creation, because it's largely driven based on trends and based on what is currently in, in terms of the digital space.
Yeah.
And that has been the hardest actually for me, because I'm not able to fully gauge what works and what doesn't work in terms of my social media page, at least, and what works for other people as well. I'm not able to fully understand, but I'm trying to
Don't
work on
worry,
it.
nobody
But
has figured it out.
yeah, I don't fully get it, especially in India. It's also like we were talking about languages, right? Like, I'm personally interested in like Hindi music and Tamil music and Malayalam music and English music, but you can't have so many languages in one page. You have to kind of pick a language, pick an aesthetic, pick a genre, and that's something I've anyway always struggled with. So I was like, okay, this is really hard, but I do experience creative burnout sometimes. I sometimes feel like I'm not sure what to do next, or
Hmm.
what is happening with regard to something that I'd already finished. Is it going to ever come out? Is there something that I'm doing wrong? I do have those moments, and I do feel like tired, because I have worked on many things, but they've not come out due to like reasons out of my control. There was a point of time, I think, for pandemic, for a lot of artists, where they'd worked on things before. I still have some things me and my friends have worked on. I mean, not on the same thing, but we've shot for a music video, or we shot for something else, or we've done a song and it just doesn't come out. And I
Hmm.
mean, this is excluding the long form projects, which sometimes get cancelled or shelved. And that's when it's really disheartening, because you're trying to put in your all in different, different sort of projects and different scales, or different size, like sort of different durations. And like, you're trying to do a range of things so that something will come out, and then like they never come out, and then you don't know if your time has been like truly wasted. But again,
Yeah.
I think of everything as a learning, so there's no time wasted in that sense. But yeah, I do have moments where I feel like I don't know what's going to happen next, and I don't know what's going on in this industry. Or what's generally, I mean, that no one knows what's going on with regard to the world post pandemic. To be honest, you can't really plan life the way you used to.
Yeah.
uh, so that way I know that we're all not alone. But it is important, I think, for me to always stay in touch with creating something. Well,
Right.
so that has been of utmost importance to me, to always be engaged. So I try to make sure that there's not too much time bit from one project to the other. I'm always trying to be engaged with some sort of project, and sometimes I feel like it helps to be involved in more than just one discipline, so that you're always aware of other departments and other kind of talent. And I feel like I've met a range of people because I do a range of things, so that has helped me meet people and learn from them.
So you never really like take a break then?
I think like I try to when I travel.
Okay.
uh yeah, I try to, but I've not succeeded in having like a full, you know, no work sort of vacation. I tried to do that recently, but there was a lot of overlap. So suppose I was like,
Hmm.
I don't want to do my work with regard to like the creative producing aspect of things, I would tell my colleagues, and they would be, of course, very understanding. But then something else with regard to acting, they'll reach out to me and be like, "Oh, have you done this, or have you read this?" And I can't tell them I'm on break, so I I tried, but I don't. Also, the problem is in India, people don't understand the concept of a break. I think everyone wants to work round the clock 24/7, and I mean, I respect that, but sometimes it can get really tiresome, because all of us are like huge workaholics here, and we thrive off that. And even I do. Like, I'm also really bad sometimes with regard to drawing boundaries, and I text my colleagues very late in the night, and I'm like, what am I doing? So I try to stop that, because you need to, there's no point. I mean, another thing is I've realized that it's just a job. Like whatever
Yeah.
you do, it's just a job, and that needs to have like a starting point and an ending point. Otherwise, it's going to take over your life,
Yeah.
and in a way that will really impact your health. So I'm trying to find a balance. I've not found it yet, but I'm trying to find a balance. And even if, people feel like I owe it to them to be answerable to them, I'm going to try and request for some time, because I do need it. And
Yeah.
I try to, on Sundays at least, sort of not do anything.
Mm.
Um, so it's kind of a reset day. But now I feel like it's important to kind of completely disconnect for at least 2 3 days, and really disconnect, like as in no phone,
Yeah.
etc. I haven't done that, but I feel like phones and social media itself can kind of push you to the extent of a burnout, just because of the screen time and the kind of
Yeah.
stimulation you have. I'm sure you've also faced it, like constant stimulation, and it can really exhaust you. So that's something I think we all need to take a break from time to time, but we just don't get the chance to, because I don't think the community around us is very supportive of that idea.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you mean. I mean, there's something which I've been trying to do off late, and I think I'm more or less succeeding at it to a large degree. Is basically every day before going to bed, I
Mhm.
just keep my phone aside, like at least 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. I just don't, like, I completely switch off. Like, I don't take
Oh,
messages, I don't take calls, it's on silent, I don't care. I'm just like, I don't want to look at my phone. Let me
the,
go
the,
read a book. Let me just listen to music. Let me just, do something.
that's so great. I mean, does it help with your sleep? I've always.
It does. It does. It honestly does, because I think it kind of helps you wind down, because I think, like you said, there's
Mhm.
just like, because otherwise you're constantly like on screen, you're seeing, there'll be messages
Mm,
that come for some creative project or some collaboration, and
mhm,
you immediately want to jump on it. But then
mhm.
I think it's also like trying to remind yourself that, hey, this isn't running or going anywhere. You can very well reply in the morning. You don't have to respond immediately. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
something about having the phone next to you. You feel like, oh, I have to,
yeah.
be available. I have to strain my eyes, even though, yeah, this can be dealt with tomorrow morning. I totally understand.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a process. It's a process
Mhm.
for sure, but it's definitely, it's helping. I think it's a day by day sort of thing, for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But what is your relationship with social media like, especially now since you have a significant online presence? You're making, like I said, you're making reels, and I think especially after your music video, after the film, it's just kind of like picked up to another level. And has it really changed over time, considering like when you sort of playfully would have started that Instagram account as just like, hey, it's just another social media thing, and now it's kind of like a tool for your career as well. So how has it really
Yeah.
changed over time?
Oh God, it's actually one of those things that, like you said earlier, that I don't know if anyone knows what they're doing. I think there are a lot of people who are very aware of their brand and their presence and trends and the current market, but there are a lot of people who are sort of new entrants like me, and then you're just trying to navigate the space without offending anyone. I think I'm terrified of offending anyone, uh, uh, unintentionally, of course. I tried for the longest time, I think before I had any sort of traction, to post sort of photographs or poetry or whatever appealed to me at that point of time. And I used to maintain a certain aesthetic. After I realized, oh, this is the new space that you have to make reels to sort of make sure your content reaches a certain audience. I realized that I wanted to just laugh at certain things in my life that I felt were hilarious, or sad. Like I think for me, I've tried to find the comedy in seemingly strange or sad situations. So I started making reels about, things not working out, or awkward moments with regard to dealing with interpersonal relationships, or experiences I've had with regard to work or friendship and stuff like that. So I started making those kind of reels or about being, you know, navigating your 20s and modern dating and all of those things. So I started making reels about that because I felt that I found that truly funny. And some of them actually did well in the sense that they reached a lot of people, and some
Mm.
people found it really funny. Like I made this reel about um, something I think you also might find frustrating. Uh, there was a point of time where I would just get so many messages on WhatsApp and Instagram, and I would find it so difficult to reply to all of it. And yeah, I'm not a big celebrity, and all of us have like a lot of messages on different platforms. And I know that we have to respond to them, but sometimes those messages are like just good morning or what's up on both things, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to you. I said it on one platform, you want me to come here again and say it here? So it was like something, it was just like a Tamil song or something, and I was just like, won't I get any, can't you just give me some moment of solitude or something like that? And I just did something like that for fun, and I was, and my comment, like my caption was like, no Siddharth, I will respond to my boss and not you first. And there's no one called Siddharth, and all my friends with Siddharth got attacked. And I was like, it's not about you. It's just like, it's just a funny thing. And it blew up, and I was shocked because it was the reel I put least effort into. I was just wearing my t-shirt, and I was like, like chilling in my house, and I was just trying something for fun, and it got like 250 or 43K views, and I was like, are you serious? What the heck? In the sense that I was like, I put so much effort into my other reels. I got it filmed, I got other people involved, and I was collaborating. I put an effort into the costume, and I put a lot of effort into the thought. And this one was, just something really simple. But I think some of my friends were saying that it was relatable because a lot of people were frustrated by this constant influx of messages and the pressure to respond and the pressure to sort of be in touch on every platform, and it can actually be really annoying.
Yeah.
So I think that worked out. So then I just decided that I'm going to just try and be myself, although like you were saying, it is not easy because I did get a couple of messages where people were like, oh, you should not be so negative, as you are a famous person on social media. You should be positive and you should spread only positive messages. And I mean, it got me thinking. I mean, I was I was not trying to be negative as such. I was trying to be honest because at this point of time, I think all of us in our 20s are going through different sort of challenges with regard to finance, career,
Yeah.
uh, your interpersonal relationships, your purpose. It's all quite overwhelming, and I think it's okay to be honest about it being overwhelming. And I know that a lot of people like that or found it funny, and some very few people, because my audience is smaller at this point of time, have not liked it. But I also know that there's a lot of people on the internet who are extremely positive to the extent that it's problematic or even fake, if I may say so.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that because I know that it's unreal and a little unfair to expect everyone to wake up with a smile on their face and seize the day. Some days you don't feel like it, and that's okay. That's just that day. And if you know that other people are going through that, that helps. I genuinely feel that if we're all candid about our struggles, we'll feel less alone, and we can actually help each other instead of just being like, oh, I'm amazing, I love myself every day, even though things are challenging. I'm amazing. I know, obviously, I think everyone should love themselves, but some days it's hard, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Everyone has their vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and in fact, you can find people who have those similar vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and you can like share notes and become stronger together, and not have this arrogance about your seemingly positive attitude towards life and everything else.
Yeah, no, for sure. So then, when it comes to putting out content now on social media, are you like very consciously trying to like follow the trends so like your content gets more traction, or are you still very like, I'll make what's like feels right to me?
I'm trying to do a bit of both.
Hmm.
I'm trying to collaborate more with other accounts and other artists. So when I do that, it's for genuinely the sake of experimenting. I did this song with a friend of mine who's also a music producer, and we both do conventional things in the daytime, and we wanted to just try to make this song called like Black Kurta, and it's one of the least viewed reels on my profile, but it's one of my favorites because yeah, I we made it over a few days, and I sang and wrote it, and he did like this really catchy programming and made like a really fun song, and we filmed it ourselves. But that was not at all based on any trend, and I knew that it would be a bit hard for people to understand because it's in Hindi first of all, and I don't think a lot of people that I know in Chennai would really be into that sort of genre or that kind of, even like the words I've used and things like that. I don't know if it was really in their taste, but
Hmm.
I wanted to put it out and just see what happens. And I still feel like it's okay to do that because it's sort of like testing your work,
Yeah,
and seeing what can happen. And you never know, sometimes like certain things that you put out may gain traction over time, or it may not, it may just be like that. But like I said, even the other reel I posted about WhatsApp and Instagram, that was not at all a trend. It was an old song, and somehow it did well. But some songs that have been trends also have done really well for me. So I
hmm.
try to do a combination because I'm still, as I said, I'm still new in this space and I'm still learning. You're getting feedback on your content. You're getting feedback on your consistency. You're getting feedback on your quality, and it's important to be mindful of all of that. But like you also mentioned, it's hard to gauge what works at this point of time because that keeps changing. It wasn't even reels. It was used to be posts, and engagement
Yeah,
with posts and the algorithm was different. Now it's different. Who knows how it'll be later on?
true.
You have to just be on your feet and keep evolving, and that can sometimes be tiring, I think.
Yeah, no, that's very true, very relatable. I think somewhere I have just given up on social media with regard to my public account. I'm just like, you know what, I'll just post whatever, whenever at this point. Something works great, something
Mm,
doesn't, sure. But yeah, no, it's
I know,
definitely
I can
challenging
imagine.
for a lot of creators. I can only imagine. So speaking about, Instagram, when your first music video came out, Kadal Kirakan,
Hmm.
you kind of made this post saying that you were auditioning for different things, but nothing was really working out till, this
Hmm.
happened. Have things changed for you now, especially after Mudalni Muduvimni? Like, is it different now? Are you getting offers? Are you getting more chances to audition?
Yeah, it was true. I mean, at that point of time, even now, it is a bit challenging to audition all the time and for things not to work out the way you've imagined them to. But yes, it has increased after Mudal Nimudivami. I've been uh, asking lesser, and I've been getting more calls, if that makes sense. Like, I don't really need to seek it out.
Hmm.
People kind of know I'm here, and I do act, so that is gratifying. But the kind of roles I want to do, I haven't had a chance to do them yet or even be considered for them yet. I think I
Hmm.
do get a lot of calls, but they happen to be smaller parts because I have done smaller parts in different projects. I did a short cameo in Nabarasa. I
Hmm.
did a secondary character in Puttam Pudu Kalai Vidyada, and also in Mudalni Mudivamni. I was part of the ensemble for the second half, not even the first half. So there is a certain perception, I think, in people's minds that I'm willing to do all kinds of roles, which is true. I'm willing to do all kinds of roles, and I don't mind doing a role that has a shorter screen time. I don't believe that that is a problem in any sense, but I would like to do different kinds of roles, and I'm not getting a chance to do them right now.
Hmm.
I think I've probably like presented myself in a wrong manner, or I don't know what exactly is happening, but I do have some other things lined up that I think if they release will kind of be a better indication of my scope in terms of
Hmm.
acting. And I think after that, I will start getting access to the roles I want to do. There's
Hmm.
certain roles that you can't really audition for and you're only considered for.
Yeah.
I'm not in that space as of now. But I have auditioned a lot since Mudalni Mudivamni, but there's still been the rejection and ghosting subsequent to the audition. So I'm not phased by that because it happened before. I don't expect things to change just because this film came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I again I didn't expect this film to change anything because, like I told you, I was a part of the ensemble in the second half, and I think my screen time is honestly only 10 minutes or something. But it happened to somehow bring me to light in a lot of ways. So I was grateful for that, and I don't expect any special treatment after that. But if it does happen, then I'm not going to complain. But it's not happened yet. With regard to professional prospects, obviously
Hmm.
people have been really kind, and when I go to colleges and some public events, some people come up to me and tell me they really like the film and my character, and they take photos with me, and I get stunned because I didn't think this would have that much of an impact. It's really sweet because they still remember the film even like 7 8 months after it's
Hmm.
released and things. So that's been very nice.
So, kind of shifting gears a bit, what are some misconceptions you've seen, people have about media related industries, especially like, the film industry or the OTT space? Are there any
Hmm.
anecdotes or experiences you can share?
I think that it's a very straightforward path to success that is solely based on hard work and talent is a bit of a misconception. People try to, begin in the industry. I feel like there's a lot of factors at play, and it's not just hard work and talent. And this is something I've seen over three generations with regard to my family and with regard to their peers, that a lot of the times it is a lot of resilience, mental endurance, luck, marketing in terms of how you market yourself and the film,
Hmm.
in terms of being perceptive to the market and being able to evolve regardless of the fact that the medium may always change, but art will always prevail. So those are the things that I wish I knew when I started. I mean, I always knew, but I think I didn't fully realize that it's not just about talent and luck, but there's a lot of other factors that you need to be mindful about, and you need to really work on your mental strength, resilience, and be very aware of like uh, timing and when you release your film or when you decide to do a certain subject at a certain time. It may not be always the best time for you to do that sort of a story. Maybe it's a later time. You need to be very perceptive about the market, and I think people think that if you just work really hard and you put in a lot of effort, everything's going to work out. It's not that simple and straightforward. And if you
Hmm.
have those expectations, then you might be let down because
Hmm.
there are a lot of people who have been around, who I've seen are extremely talented and extremely hardworking, but because of a lot of reasons outside of the control, it hasn't worked out at that point of time. But I feel like no one should take that personally, because if you've done everything in your control and in your power, that's adequate, because there's always going to be too many factors that you cannot control in the industry, and you cannot take that personally. And I try to remind myself, I forget a lot of the times. It's very convenient to blame yourself and hold yourself responsible for your success or your film success or other factors. But the truth is, the OTT space is constantly changing, the film space is constantly changing. If you
Yeah.
made a film that released during the pandemic and it didn't do well, that's really not your fault. It's just how it is at the moment.
Mm.
And if you make something in the OTT space and now it's not doing well, it's because people have started going back to the theaters. So a lot of the times it's not just about the efforts, it's you have to be mindful of the other factors
Mm.
involved in the macrocosm of the industry,
Yeah.
and misconceptions is that it's very glamorous, it's very fun, it's very rewarding. It may be for some people, it may be in certain aspects of your life, or sometimes when things work out in terms of like the release and the reception. But a lot of the times it can be extremely disheartening and tiring and frustrating when you work on things for like 2 3 years. I know people in Bombay, my friends who work for big production houses, and they work for like 3 4 years on a project and it doesn't see the light of day, or it gets cancelled, or it comes out and no one knows about it. And they all have big actors and associated with big people, but that isn't enough sometimes. And
Mm.
there are films that have done all the right things and have had the right kind of talent associated, and it's been genuinely good work. But sometimes it can be extremely frustrating to get back up after that and want to make something again. So that part is very dissatisfying. But I know that that's, again, just how it has always been, and it
Mm.
will be. So that you just have to take along your stride and let it not affect you. But I don't think it's very glamorous, because if you're working behind the scenes, especially, or even if you're working as an actor, a lot of the times you work in very remote places where you don't have access to like bathrooms. It's very hot and there's nothing you can do about it, because
Yeah.
you're outdoors, you can't put an AC or anything, and you don't have I haven't had access to caravans most of my career. Only if there's a space or whatever, you can put a caravan. But there's been times where I've not had access to the bathroom for a long time, and it's been a bit odd and annoying. But it's not always as glamorous and as coveted as people make it out to be. I think when I tell them I work in media and film, they're like, "Wow!" And I'm like, "Really? It's not that. It's not that fascinating." So yeah, that's. I always not just me. Everyone, like, once we go to shoot, we come back, we look so tanned and worn out and like old within 2 weeks. And yeah, you have these night shifts. Sometimes when you're working on a project, it's mostly shot in the night. So you basically start at like 5 6 p.m. and then you go on till the next day 6 7 a.m. and you do that for like 2 3 weeks at a stretch, and you come back home and you expect everyone to be on night shift, but the whole world is on day shift. So there'll be
Yeah.
like so much noise on the street and I can't sleep, and it's so frustrating. And I know doctors also, so many people do night shifts, but at least people respect them for doing that. Here they'll be like, "You're just in the industry, what, suck it up." So that's the hilarious thing. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, people really don't see, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. I think
of
that's
course.
the situation basically. Um, but yeah, no, it's always great to kind of just get that perspective, right, from someone who's working in a particular industry of exactly like what's working, what's maybe like misunderstood about it. Kind of moving into a more personal space, you've also been very vocal about body positivity and,
Mm-hmm.
even with you having PCOS, what
Mm-hmm.
has your experience been like with body image, especially since you do work in an industry that kind of does tend to hyper focus on body
Mm-hmm.
image?
Wow, I didn't think many people noticed that I did all of this, but thank you. I'm touched. I think that For me, my relationship with my body image has evolved over time and is continuing to improve, hopefully over time. I still do feel a bit underconfident or a bit overcritical when I look at myself or when I come on screen, because when you stand in front of the camera and you look at yourself in the monitor or on any sort of screen afterwards, you do tend to see a lot more than you would have seen with, like, your naked eye. Like, your skin imperfections are far more pronounced. You tend to look a little more fuller if, I guess, you're wearing a sleeveless, or certain clothes may not necessarily accentuate your body in the right ways at all times. But again, what is the right way? I don't know that, but I think it is a bit crucial to remember that it's important to stay healthy and not necessarily appease the conventional notion of what someone's body should or should not be like. I try to remember that I need to have certain goals with regard to my health and fitness, and I am trying to fulfill those as opposed to what the industry wants or what people want in terms of body image or what is conventionally satisfying to their gaze. I think it's improved a lot. Obviously, there's so many body positivity influencers, and now there are actors who are more vocal about the challenges they've faced with regard to being shamed for what they're wearing or how they're looking despite certain health conditions. Also, people are not very understanding of that. It's a bit unfortunate. However, I try to ensure that my PCOS is in check. I recently went to Kerala for an Ayurvedic program that worked on some of the aspects that I couldn't, kind of figure out with regard to my PCOS. So I kind of worked on my diet and figured out that certain food groups weren't working for me. And
Mm.
ever since then, I feel like I've felt better overall, and I'm trying to maintain that after the program. But yeah, there are always avenues to sort of improve your health, and it may not always be like conventional allopathic medicine. Maybe you'll find like an alternative route or another kind of diet program or another kind of method that works for you. I've never resorted to, you know, being extremely hard on myself because I think I was lucky enough to have, I think, friends and family that have always snapped me out of, these overcritical thoughts that,
Mm.
we all have about our body, because they remind you that it's normal to have, like, it's all, I think it's very normal for all of us to have different shapes and sizes, and I think that's what makes us unique. So I think to fight that would be stupid, because that's what makes us unique, and we all can't be a certain ideal or goal. Like, I've been a dancer, so I have, a certain kind of body, and I may not be able to change that. And an athlete might have a different body type, and that's okay. I think, yeah, the also these editing apps that people use. I think the West influencers have these apps where they edit their body, and that kind of stuff really creates a standard. But there is no real standard, right? So
Mm.
I don't think we need to adhere to something that is inherently problematic.
Yeah.
So I try not to do that, and yeah, I really don't want to do anything that would make me feel uncomfortable in the future as well with regard to
Mm.
my body. I want to just try and do whatever I can in my capacity to ensure that I've reached my health and fitness goals. And I think everyone should be fixated on that rather than uh I don't know what is trending right now, because you can try and be a size zero, but then who knows, tomorrow, like, it might be in fashion to not be a size zero, and then you would have done all that work for nothing. So you can't be fixated on that, because that keeps changing.
Yeah. No, that's very well put, and more power to you, and the
Thank you.
messaging you're putting out for sure. But yeah, we're now kind of coming to the end of this interview, and we always end with these last two questions. So the first one is, what are your aspirations? What are you looking forward to in the near or even distant future?
I have a lot of aspirations, but if I had to be succinct about it, it would be that I would like to create more art that is sort of informative, engaging, and also entertaining to the South Asian audience specifically, because I always feel that that has been my area of interest in terms of the lives we lead and the culture we've all had access to and the issues we face that will always remain a priority to me. I think that I've got a few things that I've been working on for a while, and it will take some time for them to surface. But I think over the next couple of years, I will be having things that I've written release, hopefully, and also I'm trying to put out more music. So I'm looking forward to that coming out, and I really, yeah, always want to just create something thought provoking. That's always been my agenda, and to trust the process and enjoy the project and the people I'm meeting. Even like our conversation has been so enriching for me, and it's also been something I didn't really plan for. These interactions really make me want to go back and do things again. So I think that is important to focus on the process rather than the rewards or the success or the monetary benefits. I'm trying to uh, focus on that these days because like we've been talking, you can't really anticipate success or rewards or even releases for that matter. Those things are not in your control. So what is in my control is to work with the right people, have fun during the process, and make something good together. And I think that has been my agenda off late, and I think will always be my agenda. But I do have a lot of themes I would like to explore, and sort of stories that I've always had in my mind, and I would like to share those stories with other people. So if they do come out soon, I'm excited for people to see them and for them to like discuss it with me once they've seen it. So I'm hoping for all of that to happen.
Yeah, and I'm honestly curious to see, what you put out also in the coming, future. You've always worked on
Oh.
some really interesting projects, and I've already kind of told you this even before whenever I've
Mm-hmm.
liked your work. So yeah, I'm
Thanks.
definitely, waiting to see what it is that you come out with. So yeah, last question. What
Mm-hmm.
is a piece of advice or learning you'd like to share with people? It can be creative or something, you've experienced personally and you just wish that more people were aware of.
So thank you for such an interesting session, Sangeeta. Honestly, it's been so thought provoking for me, and it's made me go back into my journey as an artist, and I feel a lot more aware now after your questions. So thank you for that. And I think for me, my sort of piece of learning that I would like to share is was like reflected quite well in this book that I read called "Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down," which was by Haemin Sunim, and the quote is. We know the world only through the window of our mind. When our mind is noisy, the world is as well. And when our mind is peaceful, the world is too. Knowing our minds is just as important as trying to change the world. The reason I like this quote a lot is because I think as artists, our minds are very noisy with expectations, feedback, uh, the constantly changing perception of what is good art and your reception with regard to your work and all of those things that really cloud your mind. And with a mind like that, you can't really change the world. So off late, I'm trying really hard to work on my mind and my thought patterns and my vision. And I think it's really important for all of us to really work on our minds and our mental health and our thought patterns, even though, uh, everything is going at a very fast pace. It's important to slow down and stop and take time for yourself and take time for your mind and truly be alone with your thoughts. And I feel like we don't give ourselves enough time to do that. And we take a lot of care of our health, like our physical health, and we forget about our minds. And like you and I were talking earlier, social media and a lot of other things we see become the narrative our subconscious mind tells us, but it may not necessarily be the narrative that we can craft. So it's
Mm.
important to see the differences between what is being told to us and what we want to say. So I think I was tricked into thinking that it is extremely important to win awards. It's important to make sure that your project has a certain turnover, to make sure that you reach a certain kind of audience, to make sure you do a certain kind of project, etc., etc. But then at the end of it, even if you do reach those goalposts, you may not necessarily feel happy. You feel like, okay, I've always wanted to act in one project, and then you act in it and then it's still not satisfying, and then you get some sort of reception and it's still not satisfying because you keep seeking one victory after another, and you associate your happiness with each victory or each conventional landmark that people have told you to aspire for. But actually, the truth is that you will find joy in the most simplest of things. I get really excited when I meet someone who's in another department but has something interesting to offer in terms of what they've learned or their experiences on other projects, or whether it's with regard to the friendship we form over a project. And even though it's just for those few months, we're like best friends, and that's really, sweet, and we're like a family. And I think I really value that about the industry, that you can really meet some great people and together you can make something great together. And it's all about the team spirit and enjoying the process and working with people you like, and not necessarily the outcome. I think being outcome driven in any industry is a bit taxing, but especially in the art, because the outcome is constantly changing and it's a variable, um, sometimes out of your control. You can do your best, but sometimes a lot of the things are out of your control, especially post pandemic, how things have been changing. I think it's important to be fixated on the process and the people and your craft and your mind. So I wish for all artists to do that, and I wish that I keep doing that.
Yeah. And on that wonderful note,
Thank you.
we've now come to the end of this interview. Thank you so much for being here, Saras. It's been
Yeah,
an
thank you for
absolute pleasure.
having me. And I'm sorry that your social media has been, a little bit inactive these days, because I really follow it. So I'm looking forward to more poems from you and more work from you. So, writer to writer, I'm really excited for all the things you're going to come out with as well.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. But
Yeah,
thank you so much. This has really been lovely. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to talk soon again about, art and everything else.
definitely, definitely. Hopefully, I come out with something better and then I get a feature on this podcast again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was my conversation with Saraswathi Menon. It was really interesting to get an inside perspective on what it's like to work in the media industry. Closing this episode with two pieces written and narrated by Saras. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next week with a new guest and a new chronicle to share. Talk soon!
What if one day the skies rained stars, winds caressed cherry blossoms, cigarettes blew bubbles, seas lather up happiness, guns could shoot only paint, war was just an acronym for raw, our silhouette against the sunrise was the only dark thing in this world, and falling in love was the worst disaster that could happen. Apupa, which means grandfather in Malayalam. White shirt, old spice, soft hands, fresh sheets. I remember the last words that spilled right off of me. Semicircle of grey hair, ink pen, rubber slippers, leather watch. You were always punctual, but did you need to leave this early? Letter paper, diary of 2010, sepia framed bifocal lens, news each day. Did you see yourself once again in the obituary today? History books, religious texts of all kinds, hearing aid. Can you still hear everything we say? I know that this time you'll listen closer and we will speak slower. It's never too late to tell anyone that they were too generous for their own good, that they did more than they ever needed, that they would put anyone before their own happiness and still smile. I was in awe then and even now, just that I look up this time.